Okay, for everyone that's on the call and the video, if you have any problems, you can raise your hand. If you raise your hand, then we can try and communicate with you to fix it. You can also ask a question, or you can communicate with us by questions. Similarly, if there's a problem, we'll try and fix it. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. We've got Dean from ProPitch and Ian from ProPitch. We'll have a presentation, and at the end we'll have an informal chat and discussion with questions and answers. And if you do have questions throughout the presentation, we will revisit them at the end, so just post them on the question drop-out menu.
Cool.
So I'm going to mute all the attendees, and then we can crack on, Dean.
There you are. Right. Okay. You're not supposed to mute me there, mate. Ian, do you want to check if you're unmuted as well? Okay, so let me just make sure I'm sharing the screen with you. Yeah, so you've got the screen. So we're going to crack on. There's no point me asking questions because you're not going to be able to answer anyway. Right, so basically we're going to talk about the app and how we can possibly use the app for us to support you remotely, especially in this extreme situation we're in at the moment. It's a crazy situation. None of us have ever encountered anything like this before. So we're going to talk about the app. We're going to talk about maintenance progresses as well, and what we're going to do to try and improve things over the next couple of years. But I'm just going to try and flick the next screen. Whoa. I'm struggling to see everything now because it's a bit too bright in here. So just a bit of background information on ProPitch itself. Founded in 2008 by Nick Smith and John Stemp. They were the original developers of the ProPitch app, the ProPitch system. Their core information at the time was data recording. So basically they would go in and do an assessment of the pitch and give the groundsman the data of the pitch itself. I joined in 2015, and we kind of evolved the system to utilize this to improve standards of the playing surfaces for ground staff. I used to be a groundsman. My background's a groundsman, so I used to data record. So coming across and doing this data recording as well was quite simple. Sorry guys, I'm just going to take me off the. It doesn't matter. Leave me on there. So I used to data record myself as a groundsman, and I kind of used it just to kind of protect myself as a groundsman as well. It was always handy because the guys used to come on, the coaching staff used to come on and moan about the pitch for argument's sake. Well, I say, well, you train, you've had X amount of games in these conditions. You know, root development has shrunk. So we kind of use that information to kind of protect myself, and I've always done it ever since. So we then also, with using the app to improve standards and things like that, we also then started using the ProPitch system for agronomy, so we could then use the data we collected to be able to kind of guide groundsmen how to improve pitches. We also did some tournament delivery. We've been doing the UEFA Champions League final for the past 5 years. We've done some FIFA tournaments as well, which are club finals. Some CONCACAF as well. So it's quite a few different kind of organizations we've worked for. And one of the other key things I wanted to bring into ProPitch was, without doubt, training. Training the ground staff around the world has always been a passion of mine. I love the idea of sharing knowledge and picking up knowledge from other people. So how do we work as a system? We have over 5,000 pieces of data that we review, and following feedback from the industry organizations such as UEFA, it used to be FIFA as well, and also we have ground staff that can feed back some information, and even some contractors. You know, they've fed back some information, suggesting kind of little adaptations to our testing kind of system, and we've kind of evolved and trying to make our product probably one of the best. I'd like to think, definitely going, you know, as we are now and going forward too. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get the mouse up. Right, so the team, it's 2 full-time people. It's myself and Ian Craig. I'm Dean Glasby. I'm the Director of International Pitch Management, and then there's Ian. He's International Sports Turf Development Manager. We've been in the industry I've been in the industry for just under 30 years. Ian's just under 20 years. And we've also then, as groundsmen and golf guys as well, as a golf greenkeeper as well, Ian was. Greg Askew and Graham Glenn are the other two consultants we bring in quite regularly to support us. If we're caught on other projects, then we'll bring them in to kind of to support us on the maintenance and delivery of tournaments and things like that. Both fantastic guys, and I always say, if you want to be the best, you have to surround yourself with the best. And to be honest with you, these guys are superb, and I couldn't think of a better team of groundsmen to work with. So you've got a nice little picture of Ian there, an idiot there. You got Greg Askew, class guy, and Graham has recently come on for the last 2 years and has done some fantastic work for us as well. And like I said, you have to have the best around you. We're all groundsmen. Our background's groundsmen. Greg Askew might have has worked in Australia for the last 20 odd years, although he works pretty much 21 weeks a year. So in theory, he's only got about 10 months of actual work as a groundsman under him. But hey, our services. So we do pitch inspections, feasibility studies, budget, procurement, project management, and tournament delivery. We quality assurance. Quality assurance is doing the agronomy. It's ProPitch 18, ProPitch 15, and we also use the app and portal as well. The app and portal is quite important because we can then remotely monitor any kind of assessments that the groundsmen do, and we can be classed as like a second opinion for these groundsmen with their maintenance practices if and when required. Maintenance, we carry out independent maintenance programs, fertilizer programs, pesticides, turf and enhancement programs. We're hands-on support, so when we do get the venues, rather than sitting up in the stand and taking notes, we tend to get onto the pitch and work hands-on. I think it's better that way. I like the idea of showing people how to do things as opposed to telling them. And again, same with the team. I've heard some stories of the guys that when they've worked, when like the likes of Ian and Graham have worked over there, or Ian and Greg have worked in these venues. We get the feedback is the groundsmen, the guys that are on the pitch, they're helping the training, they're showing the guys how to do these things, and I think you get a bit more respect out of it from that. So that's key for me. Hands-on support is always the best way forward. Designing contracts through site appraisals, feasibility studies, tender specifications, construction and drainage, site work management, and then again it's back onto educational and training, which is coaching and mentoring, and transfer of knowledge. Transfer of knowledge, again, key, because when we finish a tournament or finish a project, we like to know that the guys have understood what we've taught them, and it is quite important for us to see these guys send us pictures back later on and how the pitches are developed and how they've improved after we've left the venue. It's always nice to see that. So some of our clients, as you can see, we tend to do quite a lot of work in quite a lot of countries. We have support from Sports Labs as well. Sports Labs are our sister company, and they have a lot of satellite companies around the world. There's Norway, there's Italy. Whoa, I'm sorry, guys. Norway, Italy. Neil, where else have you got? You got some sport. You've got America. Any other places you've got?
Yeah, we've got America, Israel, Morocco, Turkey, Belgium, the Netherlands, Norway, the UK, obviously, several locations in the US. So yeah, we're there to support you guys in those locations. We're people on the ground.
Yeah. So some of our clients, AFC, FIFA, UEFA, CAP, and the Indian Super League. And again, it's remote management for most of these clients. I think it's key. I like the idea of empowering the groundsman. I really do like the idea of the groundsman, doing all the work and kind of empowering them, and then we're just there to support them remotely. And that's one of the USPs of the app as well, that we use the app to kind of just help guide the guys. You might find in some of these venues they don't need support because they're great groundsmen, they're doing a great job. But sometimes that second opinion will also help take that groundsman on to that next level. We'll find in some of the developing countries they want to be good, they want to be great, but they don't have the facilities, they don't have the resources. And we can kind of help guide these guys to achieve these standards. So it's the app. The ProPitch online portal, a unique sports turf management tool, which provides managers and consultants, groundsmen the ability to manage the pitch performance all year round. ProPitch app enable the grounds managers and consultants to perform assessments in the field from a mobile device. This is available on Android and also iPhone. You can also use it on tablets as well. They tend to work a little bit better than the Androids and the iPhones before using tablets. But the next couple of slides now will be basically all the app information and how we gather the information and what it does for you as well. So we do sell a kit, which is it's got the pogo stick. If you work within the stadium, pogos are not always effective because the GPS doesn't always work so well on them. So we'll tend to use maybe the Deltec moisture meter, or what's the other one, Ian? What's the one I'm using? TDR, that's right. I'm using the Deltec, you're using the TDR, isn't it? So we tend to use them because it just tends to give you, moisture management is quite key, quite important. The pogo is great for golf. Pogo is great for training grounds and things like that. When it comes to stadiums, it's a little bit more difficult to work inside those environments. So we've also then got the traction kit. The traction kit is bespoke to us. We're the first ones to kind of develop this, and this is on the back of doing some projects over the years and having other consultants come into the same venue and doing assessment of pitch, and their readings are different to ours. Now, whether we're wrong and they're right, or they're wrong and we're right, was yet to be seen. But what we wanted to do is try and take that anomaly out. We wanted to use this spring-loaded traction meter to make sure we're giving out the correct readings. And that's one thing this kit does do. This traction meter, it's stunning. It's a great piece of kit. Guys have done a great job to develop that. Spring-loaded at 45 kg. And I think we're the only company that actually sells it. It's approved by FIFA as well. So it's a good piece of kit there. Also in that app, we've got the soil corer. We've got the infiltration rings and the Clegg hammer. Clegg hammer readings, as you know, it's quite important for hardness of the playing surface. Although we'll talk about the AAA assessment later on, which I think is a little bit more informative for player feedback than the Clegg hammer, but a Clegg hammer does give you a rough guide anyway. So so the ProPitch app itself, I've just taken a screenshot of some of the kinds of tests we carry out. So the ProPitch Hybrid 615, which would be designed for, and again, this is feedback back from groundsmen and things like that. When you get a hybrid pitch, you don't need as much root development as what you do in a natural pitch. There are some hybrid pitches that tend to have some particularly good root development nowadays, but most pitches you don't need the roots when you get a hybrid pitch as much as what you would with a natural pitch. So we've kind of adapted the scores, so hybrid pitches, you don't need as much root as 50 mil. So if you get more than 50 mil, that's considered optimum range. Where with natural grass, it'll be plus 100 mil of roots to be in the optimum range, for an example. We've got then KNVB is an assessment that's been set up for a particular organization in Holland that want to do their own assessments. The ProPitch Hybrid self-assessment. So that's, again, that will be for the independent groundsman to do some assessments on hybrid pitches. ProPitch Natural 18 for rugby. This is instead of ball rebound, which ball roll, which you wouldn't necessarily need for rugby. We would then have HRC tests. So we've adapted each assessment to kind of suit for each one. So the rugby would be very similar to the Australian rules, would be very similar to rugby league as well, where it's kind of more bespoke for that kind of sporting fixture as opposed to football. The hybrid UEFA self-assessments. This is we sell this kit to, well, we've got UEFA using this kit at the moment, and the groundsmen carry out self-assessments. So we remotely monitor all the UEFA self-assessments, and in fairness, this seems to be going pretty well. We've obviously used it for Champions League this year, Champions League for the last 5 years. We've also used it for the Europa League for the last 5 years. And the information we get back then from the ground staff, we can remotely manage and kind of help support them guys in. So some GMAX testing, natural UEFA self-assessment. So again, there's different assessments for different types of surfaces. The ProPitch natural self-assessment, ProPitch Hybrid 18, and then ProPitch Hybrid Football 18 as well. So what each assessment carries out, the key one and the main one is, without doubt, is the ProPitch 18. This is the one we would kind of aim for. The problem with this at the moment, it is a little bit more expensive than obviously the ProPitch 15. We are looking at developing this to try and make it cheaper, where we're going to look at getting the AAA tests linked up with the hardness tests, which will hopefully be able to save us money if one man can travel and do the full 18 assessments, as opposed to currently there's up to three operators to do the AAA and to do the agronomy work as well. So sorry guys, my mouse keeps on messing me about. So then you got the ProPitch 15, which is ball rebound, ball roll, traction levels, hardness, infiltration, moisture, grass percentage, weed grasses, height of cut, thatch, roots, sward kill, appearance, disease and insects. All these are obviously important. There are certain ones we would look at in a report. When the report comes back, would be hardness. We'd be looking at levels. We'd be looking at traction. We'd be looking at infiltration, grass percentage, thatch, disease, and appearance. Doesn't, again, through evolution of our app and through what we do, we're looking at changing the appearance. It's quite refined at the moment. It's for Champions League finals where the pitches have to be the best. If they don't look good, then they can't be a 5-star pitch. Simple as that. So we're looking at adapting the appearance for training grounds, for argument's sake, where they don't need appearance as much as a Champions League final venue. The other thing you've got to look at as well, we also, when we've developed the app and developed the product, we've looked at things like hardness. Our hardness values are, the ranges are so tight, it's between 65 and 85 is our optimum ranges. And then we've got just outside that, you can still have another 10 gravities outside each side, so it can come down to 55 and it can go up to 95, where it's not considered as a big risk. So what we're trying to do is we find that 75 Newton gravities for a Teg carbon reading tends to be the kind of optimum, and it does tend to relate with our energy restitutions as well. It does help with that a little bit. So if we can keep those ranges there, that's why it's quite tight for our optimum levels. If we can keep our ranges there, then hopefully it'll help influence our AAA readings. Now, one of the reasons why I quite like the AAA as well, and we were sold a couple of years back in one of the Champions League finals, was we had a groundsman had done a fantastic job on his pitch, and he passed all the agronomy. His agronomy was excellent. He scored a 5-star pitch on his agronomy, but however, he didn't get a 5-star pitch because he failed the shock absorption, surface deformation, energy restitution. This was a natural pitch. It was considered a little bit too soft. So although it passed the hardness, underneath was a little bit soft. So the player feedback was a little bit soft. So you'd figured that the pitch would have been tiresome for the players. And when UEFA asked 2 days before the tournament, how is this going to affect the play? The answer to that was simple. The players are going to go down early. It's the end of the season. It had been a long, tiring season anyway. Players have gone down early with cramp. And lo and behold, 2 days after, we had issues with cramp. Finally, we had issues with cramp. So again, part of some of the other assessments, then the self-assessment kit will allow you to carry out the ProPitch kit on the page previously. They go back to it. This kit will allow you to carry out the UEFA self-assessment, as we class it as, which is traction, level, hardness. The only thing you don't have is ball rebound and ball roll. The other one as well, groundsmen like to do independent assessments of little things like hardness, for argument's sake. You might find you want to take hardness readings weekly, fortnightly, monthly, wherever. You can actually then use this app to register all that information, and then you'll get peaks and troughs throughout the year of how the pitch is, and it'll help you with your maintenance practices there. So portal features, easy to read. Dashboard highlights potential problem with pitches. So you've got an example here where you might find the red pitches. What we will find is we're remotely managing as well. If you see some venues that's got some red, there's obviously a problem there. These are then, don't forget, these are developing countries. In places like a Premiership and things like that, some of the bigger leagues, you're not going to see much red because the ground staff are up there. They know what they're doing. They understand their pitch more than anybody, and they'll tend to keep the pitches within the green range, if that makes any sense. But in some of the developing countries, especially to start off with, it might be a little bit red. The good thing with that, you can help guide the guys to improve. We've been to venues before now where they've had 1-star rating pitches, and the only way that pitch is ever going to go up. It's only ever going to improve. So sometimes seeing a red pitch is a positive thing because you can only make that pitch go up. Anything orange is considered as an average, which is then potentially a problem where, again, you'll see using the portals, that you can then monitor these pitches and you can guide these guys and say, look, you're going to have a bit of a problem with the hardness here. How about trying to aerate the pitch? The guys as groundsmen will be able to use the app to identify the problems with the pitch and maybe aerate before the pitch becomes too hard. So pitch performance and changes in tracking, so you can see how the pitch improves as you go along. You can view historical data, which will be very similar to this down here, and from that you can kind of make bespoke assessment programs, which is again like hardness and things. App features, the proper self-assessment test, so you'll be able to carry out your own self-assessment. And don't forget, we're in an environment, a crazy environment at the moment, a situation at the moment where we can't, no consultant can travel, nobody can travel, we can't travel, we're stuck at home, all other consultants can't travel. This is where the USP of this app comes in handy as well, because it turns the groundsmen, the vendors, the contractors into ground consultants themselves. They can use this app, they can download information, and we can remotely monitor for them as well, so we can kind of support them in that. We're here to help. That's simple. The crux of this conversation here today is the whole idea of what I've ever tried to become a consultant for. I want to help. I want to improve the standards, and this app will definitely help you guys for the next couple of months anyway. You're going to have some trying times, that's for sure, the next couple of years, and this can help turn you into a bit of an agronomist and also get some second opinion from us as groundsmen. So you've got this, the ProPitch self-assessment test, which you can carry out using the app and the kit. The pitch testing, data recording and reporting. So you can monitor, see how the pitches are going throughout the year. Remote consultancy advice. So if you did require any kind of assistance, any kind of advice, we're there to help you out if needed. You can also arrange for ProPitch to come over and do independent site visits, but this would be after everything is there. So if you've got an issue with the pitch, maybe if you can't solve it through using the app, then we can maybe come over when it's all calmed down to kind of support you guys as well. Just to give you an example on the ranges as well, is optimum ranges just on this side. It's a little bit blurred at the moment, but just I'll give you a kind of example. Anything that's in green is considered as good, so there's no risk. What your aim is to try and get the pitch in this range. You'll get an overall scoring, which will be rated out of 10, depending on what kind of assessment you're carrying out. And there's a color-coded system on the side, which will be an average from all these pitches. So if it's red, there's a risk that something needs to be done to rectify the problem. If it's amber, it's highlighting there's a potential problem on its way, so you want to do something about that. And anything in green is considered good. Doesn't mean you can take your eye off the ball. It just means at the moment you're at peak, so there's a potential for it to drop down. Ideally, using the app, it's about keeping that, stopping the peaks and troughs. You're trying to keep it at the top level. And again, just a kind of visual insight for you guys. Then after you've uploaded the information on the portal, you can see if something's reduced, maybe playing quality is not as good after this test. Could be winter time, shallow routing, so the traction isn't as good. Hardness values seem to be fine on this particular report itself, and lost a bit of grass cover, maybe again winter. So you can use this to kind of create trends throughout the year. the other beauty of this as well, and there are some companies that we're working with in the UK at the moment that want to share this information with for match day reports, which will go to the home team, away team, and it kind of also works as a good kind of thing as well, because if you send people out this report and you show that your pitch is within the optimum range, for example, then it kind of takes people away from looking to blame things. So if you get any injuries and everything's in the optimum range, you're less likely for people to turn around and say, oh, well, it was the pitcher's fault. You kind of preventing the situation before it becomes a problem, because you do find a lot of these coaches do like to blame playing surfaces sometimes. Well, it's not always the case. You know, so this app and this reporting system, if you wanted to share it with the coaches and the away team referees for that match, that will certainly come in handy. Don't forget, the pitch will never go from excellent down to really, really bad. You'll see this through the data recording as well, so you can then see the trends again with the pitches, and you shouldn't have an issue. There's never, you're not going to have any scenarios where Clegg hammer readings are optimum today and tomorrow they're terrible, they're dangerous. It's a risk to anybody. So this kind of information is quite good to share to people as well. So you can test as little or as often as you want, and this report will be then printed out into a PDF within 5 minutes of you finishing your assessment. And most importantly as well, you can share that data out to whoever you want. You control that data. You are the groundsman, you are the vendors, you are the construction company. You can share this data with whoever you want. I don't like the idea of organizations sharing the information with medical crew, for argument's sake, and the medical crew dictating what to do with the pitch. I think the groundsman's a professional. I think the groundsman should always know that he's the man that should be deciding what he's going to do and what he's not going to do with that pitch. It should never be influenced by anybody else, and that's just my personal opinion, but that's why I think this app is quite keen as well. You control that. So I'm just going to give you some examples as well. So monitoring the Clegg readings with the use of the app. So you can see these are the optimum ranges here. This is the optimum range, which is 65 to 85. With using the app, you might do 2 assessments a month. So week 2, week 4 of September, you'll find Clegg hammer readings optimum. They're within the optimum range. They're fine. There's no problems. Then in October, week 2, you might notice that it's starting to creep just outside the optimum range. It's just not far off there. So what you do, you'd aerate the pitch again. So November, you'd just do the assessments. You see everything's all fine. Maybe you've had a spike in usage. Maybe you've had a spike in maintenance practices. And also your pitch will always get firmer due to everyday maintenance practices or usage. So you can again use the app to kind of monitor where you are. 100 Newton meters is no real risk. It's not that bad at the moment. Gravity, sorry. It's not that bad at the moment. So, but you can still see that you're seeing, okay, it's just got out of the optimum range now. Let's aerate when you have a little break in the season. So what you're looking at, this is the optimum range. This is recorded with the app. And we have seen, this is just an example, but we have actually seen cases like this where if you're not regularly monitoring the pitch, you will see maybe September week 2 and week 4 are fine. October, it's starting to get out of the optimum range. And then all of a sudden, by the end of October, maybe heavy usage, maybe machinery work, cutting the fields, sometimes that firms up the field a little bit as well. You'll see then you're slowly encroaching onto that too hard, which increases the risk of HIC and injury. And if you look throughout the season then, without the monitoring of the app on the hardness, there's quite a lot of months throughout that year where you're increasing the risk of player injury. So that compared to managing and checking the hardness is a massive difference. Again, so you get,
Dean, just stepping in really there on in terms of sort of regularity for self-assessments. I mean, I tend to, I mean, we're looking here at potentially twice per month, and I suppose it depends entirely on the situation, on the staffing levels and what's available. But I think certainly if you're looking at this one being hardness is something that if you have the kit and if you have the access to the app and the ability to do these things on a sort of write it into your maintenance program that once per month or twice per month you go out with the equipment, whether it's everything and you do a full 15 test or 18 test depending on what you've got, or even if it's just the hardness, because the hardness seems to be the one that increases the most due to usage and maintenance. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
You talk to me there, right? Yeah, well, basically, it does it. I mean, you can do the hardness as much as you like. You can. This is an example of hardness twice a month, and I'd imagine, or in fact, I don't imagine. I know that you get some of the higher end groundsmen. They will want to monitor their pitch weekly or every fortnight, especially at hardness. I've seen Roy up in Man City going around this pitch weekly, checking Clegg hardness readings. So, you know, this using the app, you put that information in, it's all there, rather than writing it on a piece of paper and then going back to put it on the computer. It's instant for you. So it's yeah, it's definitely handy. I mean, you can test, you can do a full assessment every 2 weeks. I religiously did an assessment every 3 weeks on my pitch when I was a groundsman. That's just what I did. I just thought that was important for me, and I could see maybe root development during that time, and I just thought 3 weeks was a good cycle for me. I don't know why, I can't explain properly, but it's just something I did as a groundsman. So
do you find 3 weeks quite feasible to sort of fit a full self-assessment into your schedule? I mean,
as a groundsman, I spend 70 odd hours a week on a pitch anyway. It's just what the professional guys did, you know, and do. And I can imagine there's a lot of groundsmen out there that do a lot more than that. It's yes, the overtime it's free, it's unpaid, but you'd still do it because as a groundsman, your love is grass. My saying before was, I love my kids, I love my pitch, and then maybe the wife. But now it's kind of changed where it's now what I do as a consultant. And the kids have grown up, so yes, I love them and things like that, but I don't spend as much time with them now. And then obviously the wife, if she's about, check she's not about now, but yeah. No, so it's what you do as a groundsman. You want to monitor, yeah. And I mean, you can, if you tweak it to, you know how you're going with your assessments, you can carry out an assessment within a couple of hours anyway. So if you haven't got 2 hours and 3 weeks to do an assessment, then something's seriously wrong. You're not managing your time properly. It's definitely feasible. And don't forget, it's a good one to send out to your assistants as well. I mean, I like the idea of my assistants training up and doing these kind of things, because they needed to understand why I was applying fertilizer, why I was aerating the pitch. And if they didn't understand that, I hadn't done my job right anyway. You know, it's about training people around you. So we all have, you know, if you could look at some of these venues that have maybe 3 groundsmen, 2 groundsmen, but you could still, the 2 IC could still be trained up and still go out and do that assessment while you're doing other things. So I think it is self-assessment is very important to improving pitches. Using this app definitely come in handy for these guys as well. So yeah. Well, moving on. So again, using this information to give you trends, historical trends over the years. And it was always nice because I like the idea of comparing my pitch readings to this year's pitch readings. So I could possibly see where I went wrong or where I went right, for argument's sake. So again, this is important because there's kind of different maintenance plans. You kind of have a rough idea where you are maintenance-wise going forward for every year, but it's nice to kind of adapt to the environment as well. And then this is basically within 5 minutes of you uploading your report after you're doing your self-assessment, you'll get a PDF which will show you all the pitch ratings, how the pitch is scoring. Let's go back a little picture to you. Just on this bottom right here, you've got playing quality. So say for argument's sake, 4 out of 10, which gives you 40%. You got physical quality, 28 out of 30, which is giving you 93%. So all these, every assessment has a scoring rating. You'll find that hardness is an important one. So therefore, hardness is rated higher than sward colour, for argument's sake. So sward colour may be considered as 5 points of maximum to be in the optimum green healthy plant. But hardness for a player and for a pitch is more important than sward colour. Some people might question it, but I think that is, so we've kind of weighted the scores to make it more suitable. Traction readings are more important than ball rebound, in my opinion. You know, so it's kind of weighted for the optimum performances of the pitch. So moving forward, using the correct tools to ensure the best playing surface is possible. These tools include the following. Without doubt, it's all about knowledge. It's all about the groundsman. The thing is, even if he's a young groundsman wanting to learn, that's the key. It's always wanting to learn. So what you kind of need to understand is timing, when to apply the products and things like that, timing of the year, the weather conditions, just factual historical data, understanding the weather patterns, when to do work, and more importantly, when not to do work. And again, as a consultant, as a groundsman, this to me is probably the most important one. Is the bottom one, is have you learned from your mistakes? I'm a consultant. I'm an international consultant. I've done this for the past 5 years. I've been a groundsman for the past 29 years. If I told you I've never made a mistake, then I'm lying. I've made several mistakes, but what I have done is improve on that. I've never ever done those mistakes again. So when we go into venues, I'm kind of making sure that these guys understand that certain things you can't do anymore, because I've had a mistake. I've made that mistake, and I've learned from that. So I like to think that as long as we learn from mistakes, it's key, and it's the same with everybody else. I can't, you have to understand that mistakes. If you make a mistake again, there's a big problem. It's the same mistake. It's a big problem. So hopefully, learning from that is key. Timing is everything. This is just an example. This is UK pitch patterns. It's not the same throughout the world. You can get these kind of things. You can understand your pitch patterns. I know we got Greg online here, who's from Australia. He'll have his own understandings of his summer patterns and when the pitch needs to be changed into transitional and when not. So understanding your environment. So understanding the growing patterns is obviously key. Timing and maintenance is key. Timing of applications is key. An example again is March. I know end of February, beginning of March, your root development is going to start going down to anchor pitching. So as a groundsman, I used to aerate roughly around this time and apply amino acids to encourage roots to go down. So it's quite good if you know your pitch patterns, you know your weather patterns, you can apply the right products at the right time and get the maximum out of that. Again, how many people take soil samples? Is your pH levels right? Ideally, you want to be looking between 6.5 and 7.5 optimum pH levels. And the reasoning behind that, because the plant will absorb more nutrients in those kind of environment, in that condition, in that pH levels. So that's key for groundsman and maintenance, just simple little things like that. Moisture management, the amount of people that apply water just for the sake of applying water. You need to know when to put the water on. So monitoring the moisture is key, without doubt. And this was a key to one of our successes last year. Greg will vouch. We did some work in Egypt, and moisture management was key. It was 40 degrees. It was extreme temperatures. It was cool season grass. We couldn't get the warm season grass growing. Just basically with too much ryegrass in the pitch at the time. So it's plus 40 degrees, over 100 odd hours of usage. We needed to make sure we had moisture management. We made sure we didn't have that much moisture overnight, so we didn't cause a perfect environment for the disease to grow, but we knew when to apply the water, when not to apply the water, and kind of just adapt and evolve to that environment. And don't forget, every environment is completely different anyway. So moisture management is key, and it's kind of a bit of an unsung hero sometimes. A lot of people bypass this. A lot of people don't understand how important water management is, but it is one of the key factors to a successful pitch. So it's using the correct tools at the right times. Aerating the pitch, obviously one of the best tools out there for pitch maintenance. But again, you apply this at the wrong time, you can cause just as much problems as benefits. So again, one of the questions I used to get my staff to ask was why? Why are we doing these things? Why is that happening? It can be a simple question. Aeration. Why are we aerating? What are the benefits? the benefits outweigh the negatives. So if it's wet and we're trying to aerate the pitch, we could be causing black layer, we could be causing all kinds of problems with that pitch, because you're compacting the surface with the rollers, causing a squidge, which will then remove all the air spaces out of the soil, and it becomes anaerobic. So we're kind of you got to understand your maintenance practices. You got to understand when you're doing your kind of work as well. Simple things like brushing, simple easy task, lifts up a leaf, allows airspace to the crown of the plant, allows the roots to allows the mowers to get a better cut, cleaner cut, vacuum up some of the organic matter as well that's left lying on the surface. Quite a key practice. Vinny, I think you're on board. This is a nice little picture for you, mate. So yeah, using the correct machines, making sure that the catches are on, so you're catching all the organic matter. And the other one is also make sure the blades are nice and sharp, because you don't want any kind of broken leaf. Any broken leaf could open up a risk of more disease, encouraging more disease in that pitch too. Pedestrian, everything stadium-wise pedestrian. As much as I'm involved in any kind of tournament or any kind of event, we like the idea of pedestrian. The reasoning behind that, heavy machinery, especially in somewhere like this is a San Siro. Using heavy machinery, there's not a lot of air movement in there. There's not a lot of light in there as well, natural light. So by using heavy machinery, you tend to damage the pitch a little bit more than what you would if you're using a pedestrian machine. So we're trying to eliminate all kind of heavy machinery for stadium environments. If you have a 27-acre training ground, by all means use tractors. But pedestrian is a thing. And again, something I like as well, this is part of a legacy that we do. We try to make sure everything's accurate. It's attention to detail. Try to make sure everything's as best as it can be. If you string line, there's no errors. I've had pictures back from clients in India showing me work they do, and they're still using a string line for fertilizing. Even though it's 2 meters centers, for argument's sake, they're still using a string line. You can't fail. And simple kind of techniques to kind of reduce the risk of failure on missing. Again, stadium environments or non-stadium environments, pedestrian operated fertilizers, and knowing when to put fertilizer down. You put fertilizer down on training ground where the irrigation system doesn't work, or you don't have an irrigation system. Even though fertilizing in theory is a beneficial thing for the plant, it's good for obviously the plant to develop. But you apply that in hot conditions with no rainfall forecast, you've got problems. You're going to kill off that pitch. So it's applications of fertilizer, applications of products in the right times. Otherwise, you could be causing more damage to that pitch than good. Hybrid pitches, if you don't use this, you're asking for problems as well. This is without doubt one of the best tools you can use for raising up those fibers, and also for removing some organic matter on the surface. Without doubt, I'd be using this every single time I get a chance, maybe every 2 weeks, as long as the grass is growing and as long as there's no usage within that period as well. If I had a break of a match from week 1 to week 3, I'd be without doubt using this bad boy to lift up the grass, lift up the organic matter, and then vacuum it all up afterwards too. Again, using the right time. You could end up using this in the winter time where there's no growing conditions, and you could end up bringing yourself, you could be damaging the pitch basically. So it's all about timing. Right, root development. Key, you're looking at hybrid pitches. This is a hybrid pitch on the left-hand side with a fantastic root system. And on the right-hand side where the fibers have been laid in the horizontal, this is this poor rooting system. So we want to be kind of trying to encourage this kind of system, and it's all about the hybrid and making sure the first couple of weeks, we'll just discuss that quickly now. Most important, most if not all major tournaments are hybrid nowadays, and the most important phase of a hybrid construction is the first few weeks. If you actually do apply a hybrid pitch and the guys are putting sand down and bury the fibers, a pitch is no longer a hybrid pitch. That's a factual thing. The moment you don't get the studs interacting with the fibers of the hybrid pitches, then it's no longer a hybrid pitch. Simple as that. If you buried the fibers with applying top dressings of sand throughout the renovation period too, which might be what people are doing during the renovation periods this year, if you haven't got them fibres up, then you're basically burying the fibres. You're basically causing that pitch to become quite unstable going forward, and you've basically buried your $500,000 pitch. Most major, so I'm going to say about obviously most major competitions now are using hybrid pitches, and the reasons for that is instant play with a fully returfed hybrid system, mitigates the risk of loose footing and divots, less damage to surface, reduction in player injury, faster football, and pitch can be utilised more. So concerts, dual purpose, rugby, football, and more corporate events. The other thing as well is there's been kind of concerns over the last couple of years where they think these hybrid pitches are causing more damage to players than the natural pitches. This doesn't seem to be the case. What you find with a hybrid pitch, you got more interaction with that surface. Your foot is more likely to grip, and you'll find a lot of the pitches we've assessed have always scored better with a hybrid pitch than what they have with a natural pitch. You might find if you look at the bottom right pitch, there's no stability there. There's pitch is given away, so you're more chance of the players hyperextending their legs and ligaments and things like that during playing on this pitch, compared to using a hybrid pitch where they've got sure footing. So it's just kind of key. The only thing is that they do try to blame is a foot can sometimes lock on a pitch, but that's not. You're looking at plus 60 Newton meters for the pitches to get too tight. Yeah, and the other one you got to look at as well is footing. Some people wear the wrong footing, and if they're wearing the wrong footing, there's more likely to have risk there. As far as hybrid is concerned, risk and injury is definitely reduced. His pitches still need to be maintained properly as well. And we're talking about a hybrid pitch. This is a hybrid pitch. This is 3 months after the hybrid pitch was installed. 3 months. As you can see, all the fibres have been buried. There's no interaction with the fibres itself. So therefore, the footing is slipping. The pitch is kicking across. And this was laid on a natural surface with nothing underneath. It was just not nothing underneath, with the old existing profile underneath, which was more of a clay-based surface. The infiltration was very poor underneath. In theory, it shouldn't have been applied. The pitch shouldn't be put down this surface, but they did, and within 3 months, they had to remove the pitch and then install 4-meter centre drains and then returf. Another problem you'll find with some hybrid carpets, that there might be too much glue in the backing, so you can't. The roots are not coming through. So if it's too much glue in the backing, then infiltration might be reduced. Infiltration reduces, and you've got problems with organic matter on the top. You're going to have nothing but a slurry field on top of that surface too. Another example we've had. This was in Italy a couple of years back, where with all in good intentions, they wanted to put a hybrid pitch in. This is one of their first ever hybrid pitches. You look at the back end of the carpet; it's really coarse, really fine. Sorry, and there's not enough room for anything to go through there. No infiltration. And what they did do as well, after they put the carpet down, they then top dressed with sand. They didn't have enough time to overseed the pitch for the start of the season. They then returfed the pitch. And the moment they returfed the pitch, they threw away that 500,000 euros investment of the hybrid pitch. The question was why. It didn't go down too well, but I mean, we're there to state facts. We're there to state the observations that we see, and this should never have happened, but it did. And lo and behold, a few months after installation, this pitch was ripped out too. So this is an example of a well-maintained hybrid pitch. This is the Ataturk Olympic Stadium for this year's Champions League final, if it goes ahead. So hybrid pitches are definitely the way forward, but they still need to be maintained. So conclusion, key elements for a successful pitch. Aeration equipment is without doubt probably one of the most important tools. I like this. The uni rakes and things like that is really good as well. But I think you need to have aeration out there. Knowledge is king. And that's one thing I like about this. Hopefully we'll get some questions and answers going after this as well, because I'd like to think I've spent 30 years as a groundsman. I probably forgot more than what I know now. but I'll always want to learn as well. You know, it's key. I will never know it all. I never want to know it all because there's just so much information out there. So sharing knowledge is key, and making sure people understand that. Dedicated staff, you might not have the skills and ability, or you might not have the intellectual ability to understand a lot of things, but if you're dedicated and you want to learn, then dedicated staff is key to improving standards as well. Correct machinery, good construction, which is always the foundation of your pitch anyway. If you get poor construction, you're always going to be polishing the turd, as they say, and then a good irrigation system as well. So without the correct maintenance, and again, I'll say this, pitches will never improve if you do not maintain those pitches. I mean, we get a lot of contractors now that are looking at, especially hybrid pitches, for argument's sake. Some of these contractors are coming in and they're looking at selling the app with the kit for a warranty guarantee. So it's just a little bit of an investment, which will then allow the ground staff to monitor their pitch, and the warranty can then last a little bit longer. Also, if you maintain your pitch well enough, you could turn that pitch from 2 years into a 5-year pitch as a carpet, which I think is a good investment too, for the sake of a couple of grand here and there to initially set up a warranty kind of agreement. You've then got that app that you can then help to, you can be remotely managed and you can help maintain that pitch for a longer period. There's also another example. I know a hybrid carpet company that will not only buy machinery for these guys to maintain the pitches afterwards, but they'll also then support them going forward as well. Most people would support them going forward, but he's going to purchase the machinery to help install the pitch. But then after he's installed the pitch, he's going to leave that machinery in that country for those groundsmen to use that machinery to improve standards as well. So thank you very much, guys. If you have any questions, Neil, I'm sure you're going to open up to ask a question.
Dean, thank you very much. Very interesting, particularly for me that don't come from a natural background. But I suppose one of the questions I would have, and guys and everyone on the call, please fire away with questions. If I'm on the ground in the stadium as a groundsman and I see a problem on a pitch, can I take a picture and then send that to you guys on the app? How do I communicate with you?
Yep, there are actual options. Let me see if we can I'll get on the app, because you've got my screen up here anyway. I'm just loading up the app as we speak now. So there's kind of different options. Pitch matters. I don't know if you can see that there. You can kind of send questions, view notes, send different kind of messages across to people. Yeah. Or the other one we do as well, we also do some remote management through WhatsApp. And again, with UEFA, who is quite proactive with all this, in fairness, they're an awesome organization to work with, because they are quite proactive. So we've got kind of WhatsApp groups that we use. It's not, the thing is, the only problem with things like WhatsApp, it's not, for some of these organizations, it's not classed as official terms of communication. But still, as far as pictures are concerned, so what we would do with WhatsApp, for argument's sake, and we do it for the Champions League final for this year, is we will send them the report, which is an official email from one of the assessments that we do. And then going forward, the groundsman will send us pictures of how the pitch is looking, and if there's any kind of concerns, we will 90% of the time refer back to what we've suggested in the report anyway. And then also if there's any kind of new information, we will say, look, have you considered this? Have you considered that? So we can manage remotely through WhatsApp. We can also use the app. They can send us messages and we can reply back. So yeah, remote management is key, and it's in fact probably one of the USPs of what ProPitch do anyway.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Dean. Just for everyone on the call, you can ask questions. You can raise your hand. We're going to unmute everyone so everyone can then chat if you want to. We've got a question from David Bates. So, Dean, how does your system correlate with the PQS testing process? So I'm just going to.
So the pitch quality standards, are you referring to the IOG quality standards?
David, you should be unmuted in a couple seconds. We've just activated that. So you can self-unmute as well, guys. So once we unmute you, you can self-unmute on your own phone. And David said, yes, that is Dean.
Yeah. So basically, if you actually look at there's several different kind of assessments we can set out. We originally started off doing the FIFA pitch improvement program a few years back, which has actually been part of the pitch improvement program, which are the PQS standards with the IOG. So we've used their information, we've used our information, we've adapted, so you can actually use it. Funny enough, we were going to kind of ask you a question, David, because one thing we are looking at doing is kind of adapt and evolve in our kind of pitch testing, and golf is something I've not really worked much with, and Ian's not worked really much with, but we would like the idea of using your kind of brains and kind of maybe adapting to see
what cricket one as well.
Cricket.
Yeah, cricket, yeah. Did I say cricket?
You said golf.
All right, okay, my bad. Cricket I meant, yeah, meant. So yeah, so it would be nice, because at the end of the day, if we can help you guys improve your standards, if even though we're not doing anything kind of thing, anything you guys can do to improve, I just want to improve the industry, period, So if we can do this and adapt and evolve, and everybody else is happy and benefits from it all, then I'd like to think we've done our job as consultants and as ambassadors for the industry, if that makes any sense, So David, if you want to share some information, get my contact details, Ian's contact details, and give us a bell, and we see where we can, would hardness values be important to you? Grass percentage. I mean, you could kind of guide us on ways how we can adapt our assessment to cover you for a cricket pitch, if that's what you're looking for. But as far as your questions concern, PQS standards are very similar anyway. We're just a little bit more tweaked on some of the optimum ranges, and the only reason behind that is because we've kind of adapted for major tournaments where we're trying to get 5-star pitches for improved standards. So it's the ranges are a lot shorter than places like the IOG, which maybe the optimum ranges would be here, but ours is a little bit tighter as well.
Yeah, can you hear me, Dean? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, a couple of questions really with it. One obviously cricket related to the stadium pitches and domestic grounds, but the IOG are putting forward a new set of performance quality standards with different ratings.
Yeah.
And that's really what I was sort of trying to talk about. I'm assuming there's going to be some synergy between what you're putting out, especially over in a big stadium, the large stadiums, and what they're trying to do with Jason, etc.
That's right. Just to let you know, we were actually on the board of discussion on I think it was the 26th of February with the IOG, and we were kind of discussing their ranges. To be honest, I quite like what they've got to offer. I think they're a fantastic organisation, and it's really good to see people like that. They've got the same kind of mindset as us. We want to see the standards improve and things like that, and they're probably more targeted at park fields and obviously going up. They've got kind of different standards where they've got Premiership, and they're looking at but they tend to do a lot more with the lower leagues as opposed to the Premiership stuff, where we'll tend to do more Premiership stuff than lower leagues, if that kind of makes any sense. But we kind of complement each other. I love what they're doing. They seem to like what we're doing as well. So we're in communication. In fact, I've spoken to them recently about training overseas and things like that. So yeah, definitely we're up with them, and we agree on what they're doing. And I like to think they agree on what we're doing too.
Yeah, I think that's good to hear, because if we're going to do something like this, well, which is happening, it has to correlate with each other, and it has to be going through the same process.
It also, I mean, it's not ideal to say, but it's a factual thing, and I've always been one to speak my mind anyway. Well, when we originally started this, the ProPitch system, originally started off working with Labo Sports, and then slowly but surely they've changed and now started working with sports labs. So Labo Sports information is very similar to ours. Ours is very similar to the IOG. Now, bear in mind, and I don't want to, not the IOG, STRI for argument's sake, they're a fantastic organisation. But some of the testing performances with the STRI may be from 1980s. That's when it originally started, with a good doctor set up his standards. Now we've just tried to evolve that. Like, we use the AAA a lot more than what the likes of STRI do. And the reason behind that is because they like to travel quite lightweight around the world. We're still young, we're still quite keen. I can't imagine the good doctor traveling around with a 40 kg pack of a AAA assessment kit, for argument's sake, where we're still quite willing to do that. So, and I do think the AAA is key. You've got Reese from Raw Stadiums coming in with the AAA. You can't question that. I don't like the idea of the way the AAA is brought into his kind of assessments. We think groundsmen should manage their pitches. We think groundsmen are the way forward for these kind of assessments and things like that. I don't like the idea of other people, but that's my opinion. The other people kind of influencing how you should maintain your pitch. But yeah, it's definitely groundsmen.
Yeah, one thing that you touched on before is about everybody does the same processes in the main. But it's all about timings. And if you're not managing your pitch correctly and you walk out in the morning or you have a feel for something, and the best groundsmen instinctively know what they should be doing and when they should be doing it. And that's the key to making sure the pitch is at optimal level all the time.
I think a lot of that as well. Absolutely. I agree entirely that the groundsman knows the pitch better than anybody. What quantifying that with the app does is it just sort of takes away the subjectivity, so it doesn't then become the opinion of the groundsman versus the opinion of a player who had a bad day or a coach whose team had a bad day. There's actual numbers on it that you can say, I guess, to back up your argument. You know, it's there in black and white. Look, my pitch is performing, or, you know, do you know what, you've got a point, my pitch is too soft, we're working on that, here's how I'm going to change it. But it's just quantifying it rather than it just being that opinion. And like I say, I agree entirely that the groundsman does know the pitch better than anybody else. But what this app does, what this system does, is really backs that up and sort of puts numbers on the work that the groundsman's doing rather than just an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to cricket, they obviously in the main professional grounds where this is probably more relevant, is that obviously you've got two different surfaces, haven't you? You've got the outfield, which you want to do a certain type of play on, and then you've got a very high clay content pitching area. So the two testing methods for both of them and tolerances are completely different. So the traction one on the outfield is very important to give the ability for the players to slide, etc. And the different spikes, and then the testing process and the moisture and the clag, etc. on the pitches is completely different. So within the same stadium, you've got two completely different testing methods and tolerances.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, David, I mean, we're happy to discuss this with you going forward anyway. If you want to kind of look at using the app and kind of developing something to suit be bespoke for you guys, we're more than happy to do that, you know. At the end of the day, Ian hit the nail on the head, and I don't think you get many consultants that actually agree that the groundsmen know the venues better than us sometimes, you know. Most times, we turn up and we just kind of adapt. There are some places where they need consultants because they're still a little bit new to the industry, if that makes any sense, and need some support. But there's a lot of places in the UK, overseas, there's some fantastic groundsmen out there, and we're just there as a second opinion to kind of help guide them along. So it's it's definitely key, you know, good. And what I know you questioned then as well about standards and Premiership is different to the lower league stand. Sometimes those places, you know, they don't know where they are. The grass doesn't know if it's in a Premiership or it's in Division 1, Division 2, wherever. It's down to the groundsmen and their maintenance practices to make those pitches better too. I originally started my groundsmanship in the Vetchfield Swansea City Football Club, 1990, and that was an old quagmire of a pitch, but we still try to maintain that pitch as best as we could. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. You just got to make do from what you've got. You know, make do with all the applying fertilizers at the right times, trying to get the maximum out of your pitch. So it doesn't matter whether you're Premiership or lower league standards. It's how you apply your fertilizers and how you apply your methods, and basically is key.
Yeah, no, I agree, fellas. I mean, what the testing process does, it takes away some of the subjectivity, obviously, and it creates a buffer, if you want, and a bit of a barrier for the groundsman, but at the same time, it then also creates a minimum level of standard that you need to maintain. So it creates something which is more tangible than just something subjective. So it can be a good thing and a negative thing for groundsmen. In the cricketing side, there still is umpires' reports, etc., which are obviously can be quite subjective, but the lads now are using clegs and moisture meters, or most of them anyway, and therefore they're getting some real life data to try and marry up the different pitches at certain times of the year, just like you've seen with your pitches there and growth periods, etc. So it's all about the data and then using that data in the best way forward and the best timings.
Yep, exactly.
Now we'll do that at some point. Obviously, when we get over the current situation, it'd be good to meet up and have a little look at this equipment that you've got in the flesh, really, and see how it can be more, brought to the cricket grounds.
Yep, cool, excellent.
Thanks, fellas.
See you, mate. Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. See another question from Carl Johnson. Dean, I don't know, Carl, are you still there? Can you unmute your mic? I'm not sure if that's there. I'm just looking at the question that's come up, Dean, is, can we use the app to manage multiple venues? Carl's saying he manages 2 stadia in New Zealand, and is it possible to use the app to record at multiple venues?
Yep, as the groundsman app can do up to 5 venues, and I don't think there's any costs for up to 5 venues or additional cost up to 5 venues. It's then after that when they start adding more venues, there's like I think it's a couple of quid a month extra. You would know more about the prices than what we do. But yes, you can have up to 5 venues, and it's all part of the initial system costs anyway, which is something like £30 a month or $30 US a month or something like that. I can't see questions for some reason, I'm not sure. Oh, hang on, there's some questions here.
Yeah. The other question is regarding the thatch recordings. Well, again, and it depends on the surface, I guess. It depends on the sport. If we're looking at, football pitches for a standard natural, I guess, cool season, a ryegrass pitch, we'd look at thatch depth. If you're dealing with sort of more productive species like a Bermuda pitch or something where thatch becomes a huge issue, we could potentially start to look then at percentages. I know certainly if I'm dealing with golf, if it's organic matter, if it's thatch, I look at as a percentage rather than a depth. I would look at it incrementally as well. So rather than just looking at the depth, you look at the sort of percentage of thatch down through the soil profile, just again allowing you to sort of better target that maintenance.
But also with that, Ian, is we've adapted the assessments. Originally, when we first started, this thatch optimum range was below 2 mil. Now we know around the world getting 2 mil of thatch, apart from a brand new renovation pitch, you're not going to get that for a long period of time. So we've kind of adapted. It has changed, and realistically, maybe 5 mil is a bit more universal than the old 2 mil system. So we have kind of evolved that. Yes, we know warm season grasses are going to be a little bit more thatch hungry than a cool season, but having roughly around 5 mil, it has adapted. So we, don't forget, it's 5 to 7 mil is the next range, and it's not weighted that much. Although when it does start to go high, thatch is is obviously a key issue, or organic matter and thatch is a key issue for stability. So yes, it is factored in and it's pretty much universal.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions? Neil, are you still there?
I think Neil's gone. Neil's had to jump on another call.
All right, okay, right. Does the app work live on the pitch and show change over time? I'm not 100% sure on that question. Is live on the pitch? Yeah, you can do the assessment, and when you finish the assessment, it's pretty much there. So you can actually see the graphs, peaks and troughs on your assessment as soon as it's done within 5 minutes of completing. How often can the self-assessments be done? It's entirely up to everybody else, as much as they like. They dictate. We've seen David Bates' questions. Anybody else there for questions? National Stadiums, you mentioned Thatcher Cones. All right, there you are. Yeah, we've answered them ones.
One more there. Andrew Turnbull, in your experience of visiting hundreds of stadia, what's the greatest knowledge lack and education training need for ground staff? What do you think?
One of the biggest problems is the groundsmen don't get the support that they get in the UK. They're kind of disregarded as groundsmen. They're kind of classed as cleaners and things like that. So that's one of the biggest problems we have with groundsmen around the world. So then they're not supported, if you know what I mean. If a groundsman goes up to somebody in India or somebody in Egypt, for argument's sake, or some of the other places we've worked at, they're always disregarded, which I think is wrong. They're key guys. If those pitches aren't right, the players will not be able to play on the, be able to perform to their maximum. Yes, there's no qualifications out there. There's no training for them at the moment, but we are in negotiation with the IOG, and we are looking at bringing out qualifications for these guys overseas as well.
I think as a general rule, people tend to still look at it as well, it just needs cut once a week or once every 2 weeks. It just needs cut before every match. That tends to be sort of what I see in some of the more developing countries, certainly in the UK and certainly more and more in Western Europe. The groundsmanship, the sort of skill and groundsmanship as a trade itself is more respected, but there needs to be that sort of throughout the world. That's what organisations like FIFA, UEFA, CAF are trying to promote by bringing, using consultants and trying to bring in standardised systems. That there isn't really enough recognition in these countries of the amount of work that actually goes into presenting a pitch inside a stadium.
Yep. I'm just reading some of the questions as well. Have you seen the last one with Ian, with Greg? Is he still on board?
Does Ian smile? Only very, very, very occasionally, Greg. Only when I really, really need to.
Oh, that's good to hear. There it goes.
There it is. Only when I'm presented with a really good pitch.
Well, the thing is, when you're doing a kind of presentation, you can't really smile that much anyway, can you? So it's. I'm
trying to look as professional as possible.
Yeah. So right, there's still 27 guys out here. Anybody else want to have a chat? Hello. Ask us how you can. How you getting on, mate? Oh, look at that, Graham Glenn's in.
Hello.
Did you see any of that, or did you not?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, no, great stuff. There was something I wanted to ask you, just your opinion, your advice. With the current situation the groundsmen are in, just given my own predicament, for an example, I've not been set foot in the pitch for about 5 weeks now. Been told to stay away from it. The football season could just be announced to kick off at any time. Presumably not any time soon, but when it does, there's going to be very little time for any kind of renovations. What do you think the best angle to attack next season would be, given that we could just run straight into it?
Well, Well, while you got growing season, you've got to do as much as you can when you're allowed to get back in. So obviously you're not going to be able to scout the pitch when you get back. Although I have seen evidence of pitches being scalped and recovering pretty well after it too. Do you have a pop-up area, Graham?
Yeah, only perimeter pop-ups. Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah.
What's the current situation, Graham? Have you basically just not touched the pitch and it's going to be, 12 inches long when you get to it?
When was it? 4 weeks ago, we were told literally just leave site, and that was the last time that I was doing any work to it. So even then, up in Scotland, even now we've got very little growth. But it was in the typical post-winter battered state, desperate to be seeded, fed, dressed. But potentially I'm not going to get the opportunity to do that at all. And the chances are, the chances are when I get called that we can now return to work, that will be because the football season is imminent. So I'm not going to have any free weeks to carry out any kind of renovation.
Graham, your advantage there, the football season is imminent, isn't going to be as imminent as what you think. It's going to be in 4 to 6 weeks. That's how it's going to be. So you'll have a rough idea. You should be able to try and speak to your office and say, look, I do need to get in and cap the pitch. I do need to get seed on there. You do somehow. I know we're all saying stay at home, stay safe kind of thing, but there are sometimes. You're not going to be involved. You're not going to be getting involved with anybody else. It's like you're going for a walk. You're going to your job. You're going to cut the field, and you're going to come tidy it up a little bit. That's all you're going to do. It's tough. You've got to try and get on it as much as possible when you get a chance. Seeding, without doubt, yeah, you are right. The biggest issue you're going to get, and we've mentioned this in the presentation, is that people are going to, next year is going to be worse than this year, without doubt. There's going to be a lot of opportunities where pitches aren't going to be done.
I think seeding's a critical one, Graham, especially now. The temperatures are picking up. I'm sitting cooking here right now in the camper van. The temperatures are picking up. What the biggest issue you'll have if you don't sort of get on it, obviously you'll have had bare goalmouths and the like, and open scars, I'm sure. It's sort of fairly typical of football in Scotland through the winter. What you'll get now that the soil temperatures are picking up is weed ingress, moss ingress. You'll start to, and I think absolutely getting seed into these bare areas would be the bare minimum at the moment, because otherwise you're going to end up with weeds and moss and not a playable surface next year. So I think, like Dean says, as a bare minimum, really, you want to be looking at getting seed on it and trying to get it cut if possible. But I understand that may not be possible. The other thing potentially to look at, if you were able to get in even sporadically, would be to get it cut and get some growth regulator on it and try and slow things down. So that when you are actually back, you don't have a 6 week backlog of work to do.
Yeah, and I think personally, my biggest concern would be sort of the tail end of the next winter, where we are now.
Just muted some people, but I think there's a lot of talking in the background. Sorry, mate. I think I'll be
just trying to mute a couple in there.
My biggest concern personally would be the organic matter build-up that I've had up until when the season was abandoned, and then potentially picking up and going straight through next season, and then the potential problems that could bring at the tail end of next winter. I think that's a big concern. Personally, I was thinking maybe just try and get regular scarifying between games, light dressings between games if I can.
Yeah.
I just wonder if there's any other advice you could offer.
100%. There's also products out there that can help naturally, well, not naturally, but help reduce thatch as well. So there's we were reading some up recently on one of the companies we're looking at doing some work with and development with. So there's kind of like thatch control products out there as well, which definitely help. Your biggest problem is definitely next year is going to be a very, very difficult season. It's not just going to be you; it's going to be everybody's going to have the problem. Like Ian says, the pole is an issue. Weeds are going to be an issue. Although we can control weeds, pole is going to be an issue. Weeds are going to be an issue. Thatch are going to be an issue. And sorry, so it's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass for you, definitely. This just got to kind of manage as much as possible, mate. This thing, aeration, you get massive amounts of use up there, which is crazy. You shouldn't have as much use as you do, but you do. And yeah, I think you're gonna have a knock-on problem.
You're spot on with kind of light dressings. If you're getting on sort of 10, 15 tons at a time, you know, you're not hammering it on too heavy. You're not going to end up with layers, but you are going to sort of dilute that organic matter while it's there. And I think that really is the key, short of having a renovation, is just to try and do some you know, damage limitation, which is going to be sort of light regular dressings.
I mean, the advantage about the golf industry, they tend to, we've got to kind of look at it like we're a golf environment now, because they use their pitch all year round, their courses all year round. So they can only do their little renovations. So you'll find they'll get a renovation in April. They'll also then get a little renovation in October. We've just got to kind of adapt. We've got to kind of evolve and kind of reduce that as much as possible. I think that's quite key. There are going to be places like yourself, mate, where you're constantly on the pitch. They're constantly on the pitch. How are you going to do that work? We always suggest when you aerate that you have a couple of weeks to leave that pitch open. You're not going to get 2 weeks. So your stuff, you can only deal with the environment you're in. I mean, what you could possibly do is like use this app now, where that information can be kept, and you keep on educating them, letting them know that you've got problems. You know, this is only going to get worse. It's only going to amplify. Because if you pre-warn them about it, then they can't turn around to you and say, look, in January, my pitch is terrible. You know, your pitch is terrible. What are you playing at? You've kind of said, look, we're going to have problems here. This is the knock-on effect. It's not just you, mate. There's going to be a lot of places going to have this same issue.
Yeah,
100%.
I found that very important, not in a selfish way, but it is very important to cover your own back. Make sure everything's in writing, what the outcomes are going to be if jobs get neglected, and so on and so on.
You know, the sad thing here, Graham, is I used to data record, and the reason why I data recorded, because I don't know whether it was because I was paranoid, but I just got the impression that some people didn't like what I was doing on the pitch. Like, I always had disagreements with the coaching staff because I wanted the best. But when they train on the pitch, they're damaging the pitch. So if I documented everything, when they then started coming back to me and saying, well, this is the reason that your pitch is doing this, so this is happening, I'd say, well, this is the reason for it. I had the evidence, I had the data that I could show them, and it backed me, protected me. I mean, I laugh and joke about this exact scenario where trained coaching staff would always have data, right? So I went to the office one time, the coaching staff's office, after one season where he trained on my pitch pretty much every week. And I said, it's not proven to be successful for you to train your pitch. The previous coach, which sacked, won 42% of his games, never trained your pitch. You've trained on this pitch this year and you won 33% of the games. Didn't go down well, but it was facts. I was giving data. I got quickly kicked out of the room, but I'm just putting across what I think is factual data, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've heard some good analogies from other groundsmen and various people. When you're in a conversation with a manager, if they're trying to train on it 3 times a week at a game on Saturday, the analogy of if one of your star strikers pulls a hamstring, are you going to be rushing them back after a week to try and get them performing? And it's exactly the same aspect for the pitch.
Yeah, 100%.
It kind of puts it in their terms, and they seem a wee bit more prepared to understand it.
Yeah, you're right. There's Ian, Graham, Ian. He's Graham Glenn from the from our team that we pull in. And you've also got Askers on the other side. Askers, you still there? Or are you going to beg?
Greg?
No, I'm still here listening intently.
Hey, mate,
Not falling
how many,
asleep yet? No.
how many years have you been a groomsman for now, Greg?
21.
21 years. So in theory, really only 10. 'Cause I've never known somebody that has so many. This thing doesn't affect you, mate. You're off 21 weeks a year.
Well, I'm up late tonight because I'm not working tomorrow, and then it's a 4-day long weekend.
So it's not a coronavirus. It's the Greg Askew holiday virus. That's what this is, mate.
We've got a 4-week-long long weekend at the moment, Greg.
Really? Well, I got golf Friday, Saturday.
None of that here.
Yeah. Have you noticed he still does his golf? I thought you could, hey, stay safe, stay home, yeah?
2 people. That's all right.
Anybody else got any questions? Anybody else want to jump in? No? Tom? Tom, do you want to have a chat? Matt? And you, Tom? Oh, what's Matt doing? Let's see if we can. There we are. Matt, are you there, mate?
You all good?
Yep.
Good, mate. Yeah, yeah. For me, it's yeah. You know my feelings towards the app. I think it's great. I think what I've seen over the past few years is that grounds managers are reporting to kind of different levels of managers. And I think the app is a way of actually capturing what they know, what we know, what we base our decisions on, and actually making it a complete readable kind of format for these guys. So it's backing up everything we're doing, making the right decisions. I think it's perfect to be used now. You know, when we have got limited access and decisions need to be made on what crucial work needs to be done. And this again, we'll pick up on that. And from my side, also, it assists me, you know, with my customer base of making the right decision, even though I can't be there. Yeah, so I'm fully on board with it.
And that's it. I mean, what it does at the moment, it gives them, consultants can't travel, we can't go about, our competitors can't go about. So it kind of gives them a perfect opportunity for them to be a consultant and get remote support from us as well. You know, it's definitely the way forward for this particular moment. I think it's always been the way forward for us anyway. But for the situation being the way it is, I think there's no better time to launch it and no better time to bring it up. It's just whether the people around understand what we're trying to do. It's not about trying to make money. It's trying to support the industry, and I think that's key. I think it's all about improving standards, and the more information we get, the more we can improve on what our services are anyway.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. I mean, it's most of the people like yourself and who we work with, everyone wants the best results they possibly can. And this is kind of working towards that, and we can build on the development. Yeah, so I think it's a great thing. I think everyone should get involved, especially at this time, and it will give us a good base to kind of set up and then go forward, because there are going to be challenges after the lockdown is done.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to move. It's not going to go bang. It's up and running. You can go out. You can do your thing. There's going to be a couple of months, and like you got Graham now, who is concerned about how his pitch is going to be for next year. It's going to be a longevity thing. It's not going to be the next couple of months. It's going to be a long haul for a lot of people. You know, Premiership guys are going to be lucky. Some of these guys have been able to do the renovations now. Are going to be lucky. Whereas a lot of pitches are going to suffer from just overuse and not being able to do what they want to do this summer.
Yeah, and you know, we do need to look at adapting things. It's going to be a very different season to what we're used to. So yeah, it's the conversations I'm having at the minute of going, you know, if we do get a renovation, how long is that going to be?
Yeah.
Is there anything we could do right now to try and assist us, you know, with slightly different practices? What are we anticipating that are going to be the issues if we don't get a reno going into the winter? With probably likely to be more play.
Yeah.
So we're adapting and assessing the the data and making factual decisions.
I'm trying to unlock Simon as well. I'm hoping he can jump in for this as well, because I'm assuming all this is kind of will change with them too, because you'd imagine they'd be able to sell more products because people are going to need a lot more kind of artificial light going season, because they're going to be playing catch up. Simon, how's this affecting you, mate? I'm assuming this would be a positive thing for you to a point.
Well, thanks, Steve. But it certainly doesn't feel positive at this moment in time, because we're all on lockdown as well. But going forward, we're going to react to the situation as it occurs, and listening to the groundsman speaking and others that we've been in conversation, everybody's going to react at that same point. We're, as a company, are going to try and make everything available for people as readily as possible, short term and long term. So yeah, we could be perceived as taking benefit out of a crisis, but it's a tricky one going forward. It really is. We don't know.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's a kind of forced benefit, isn't it? It's not as if you're going to turn around and say, well, you must buy this. People are going to need to have this kind of support. It's whether you can support everybody and whether it can become affordable for other people as well. You know, you got like examples now where Graham's going to have a very difficult season next year, small venue. I can't imagine him being able to invest in lights or anything. But you have got baby units now that you can maybe bring out and support people like Graham with that as well.
Yeah, we're doing that, and we're also going to be talking very short-term loan or rentals for people like Graham, and I do know of others that have also been locked out of the stadiums as well. So what they're going to go back to, I would hate to think, but it's going to be very difficult. As you mentioned, there's going to be some pitches really struggling this year, coming forward with organic growth, organic problems, and just keeping it as clean as possible will be the best option. But I don't know. It certainly is a tricky one going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's challenging, something we've never done before, and so it'll be interesting to see how we come out of it. That's the thing. I mean, yes, okay, we're getting badly affected, really badly affected. I mean, I can't cope with being home. I don't like being home. I need to travel myself. But I mean, unselfishly, I'm going to stay home until this is right. But it's just, I think the knock-on effect of everything. You're looking at people like Premier Pitches, how their crux of their work is their summer renovations. How are they going to survive going forward? That's going to be a big question for them. It's just a knock-on it's scary to a point. Even there are smaller companies as well. You know, Cal Pass is quite a big company. His Premier Pitch, but then you've got the other kind of smaller companies that's just setting up, just trying to get into it, and I don't know. It's just I'm a bit concerned of where we're going to be with this. I don't think it's going to turn around within 12 months. I think it's going to be at least 2, maybe 3 years before we start finding our feet again.
I fully agree with you, and I do know that some of the how would I describe, larger football clubs are already doing the clean outs. They're doing them as we speak. One has done it with a bit of profile, the others have done it in stealth mode because they don't want it to be perceived that this is the end of the season. They're calling end to the season, but there are certainly some out there doing it already. I would say that is possibly using the initiative of this short term, but in Graham's case, if you're locked out of the stadium, there's absolutely nothing you can do.
I know. Ideally, I mean, if he'd had seed on before he could leave, that would have been perfect. But if you're told get out and you haven't got the equipment, the materials there, then you're stuck in here. And again, it's not just Graham. It's going to be lots of venues like that, and they just could be chasing their tails before they even start. I mean, at least in fairness to Graham, he's got the full mind. He can see that. He can see what he's going to face, and he's going to try and do his best. But some of them might not even have that opportunity or that thought process to kind of be able to deal with it.
I think that was personally my biggest problem, and I'm sure there's many people in the same situation. That I think it was a Thursday afternoon, the boss came to see me and just said, right, go. Site's now closed, and that was 4 weeks ago. So I wasn't even able to prepare for it.
No, and that's the problem. I mean, if you knew that you had maybe 2 or 3 weeks before this was going to be stopped, you're going to be told to go, then
Yeah.
you could have been able to manage something. But being told just to go, you're stuck, mate. It's a nightmare, isn't it?
But yeah, it is what it is, and we'll need to just face it when we do finally get back.
Yeah.
I think one of the nice things going forward, Dean, is that this is a worldwide issue, not regional, not national. It's a worldwide issue. So every single groundsman, every company is going to be in the same predicament. So nobody's really got the advantage.
Yes, no, I get that. I like the way you say it's a nice thing about it. It's not nice at all.
Well, you've got to look at the positives of certain things. We've got to move through this and adapt to it the best way we can possibly can. And there are some situations going to be limping.
I mean, this is a cracking example. We're all having a webinar now. We wouldn't have done this three months ago. We wouldn't have done this 2 years ago. So yeah, we're adapting to what we are. I mean, we're prepared to open out the app and let it out free for people, especially AGS customers. They can download the app free of charge, and they can start using it. So it's we're all adapted. You guys supporting your guys as much as possible too. You know, everybody that's around you because you use the data analysis system, which I'd like to be able to discuss more with you at some point, because if we can somehow team up what your information is, what our information is, and help support the guys, it's not a bad shout either.
That's a good shout.
Yeah. Anybody else out there with questions? Unmute Mario. Mario, how are you? Anybody want to ask any questions? Oh. Hello. Tom, how are you, mate? Tom, you trying to talk, but nothing coming through. Hello?
Hi, mate. I'm still here. Sorry,
Yeah.
work for a minute there. But yeah, no, it's all pretty similar really to the rest of the guys. I mean, I'm having conversations with people up in the kind of top leagues or higher venues who, yeah, some of them are making those decisions and going, we need to do it now. You know, we're looking until the players are back. There's going to be at least a 5-week window. So a couple of people are cracking on with it. When it comes to the monetary value, as you go down the leagues, you know, it's then a case of, okay, well, you know, what are we going to have available, and how can we make the best out of that? So yeah, as I said to you before, for me, if you can get the data in at these points to give us a kind of baseline of where we're at, we can prioritize everything that we're going to do to try and get the best results now for what's available, and then also discuss the long-term strategy, you know, and actually having a baseline on where that's at, and cutting through what's working and what's not working.
Yeah.
But I think we all need to adapt. We all need to pull together. Yeah, like I said, it's far from ideal for everyone. But you're right. You know, if we were normally out on the road, we wouldn't be online like this having these discussions about development.
I mean, it's not as personal as being there, is it? But it's still good. I mean, we're evolving, we're adapting. This is what we're doing, isn't it? This might end up being a way. Put it this way: as far as sales consultants, I think you being there means more than a webinar, but you can still be on the end of the line kind of thing to talk to these people. So the only problem you might find is going forward, you might find companies will turn around and say, well, actually, we prefer you to do webinars and discuss these things with these guys online rather than you traveling around to try and save some money to start off with. But it is what it is. I mean, you know, if you can adapt and evolve to make the product still work and make it viable, then so be it. But Yeah, it would be nice to get out and catch up. I tell you, when it does finish, I'm looking at having an almighty piss up with some of my friends.
Get me on.
Jeez.
Oh dear, it has to be done.
Celtic's going to be a big one this year, I can tell you.
It's all cleared up by then. I hope it will be. But no, it's great. If anyone, if anyone wants to get in contact with me, just let me know. I'm gonna have to shoot now, mate. So I've got to jump onto something else. But I'll catch you up later. Thanks for everything. I thought it was great.
Cool. No worries.
Right, take care.
Yeah, excellent. Cheers, guys. Anybody else have any questions? No. There you are. So we'll end the webinar. Thanks very much for your participation, guys. And thanks for the questions and answers afterwards as well. So superb. Thanks. Stay safe. All the best.
Cheers, Dean. ProPitch. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.